Nobody expected the Carolina Panthers to show up like this. A team that was once the NFL's punching bag is suddenly making noise behind closed doors, and not the kind of noise you ignore. Something has shifted. Practice sessions aren't just drills anymore. They're battles. Players aren't coasting through minicamp. They're jawing, barking, pushing each other like the season starts tomorrow. And in the center of it all is a quarterback who looked like a bust 8 months ago. Now, he's commanding attention with every throw, every word. The Panthers aren't just working, they're sending a message. But here's the twist. This shift didn't start with the quarterback. It started at the top, with a head coach who refused to baby this roster. Dave Canales didn't walk into Carolina to manage a rebuild. He came to flip the franchise upside down. He turned quiet film rooms into loud, urgent meetings. He scrapped soft walkthroughs for full-speed reps, and the players are buying in. From the offensive line to the wideouts to the running backs, there's a different energy in Charlotte. It's not just culture talk, it's showing up in how this offense moves. This isn't the Panthers stalling in neutral anymore. This is a team revving its engine. But all of this, every bit of hype, every ounce of belief, hinges on one name. Because behind the new scheme, the fresh tempo, and the louder practices, there's still one question nobody can shake. Can Bryce Young really carry this offense for a full season? His rise was electric. His fall was brutal. But what came in between might change the entire future of this team. Let's break down exactly what's happening with Carolina's offense and why it's waking the rest of the league up. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Panthers and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. The Carolina Panthers offense doesn't look like it used to, and that's not just talk. The plays hit faster, the reads are sharper, and for the first time in a long time, you can actually see a plan coming together. Dave Canales isn't waiting for midseason to get this unit clicking. He's building it to explode early. Wide receivers aren't stuck running empty routes anymore. The tight ends, especially Tommy Tremble, are finally being used in meaningful ways. And Chuba Hubbard, who quietly carried much of the load last season, is stepping into a bigger role as a dual-threat back. Nothing feels safe or predictable anymore. This offense is waking up. What nobody's talking about is how much responsibility Canales is putting on the players. He's not overcoaching every throw or micromanaging every route. He's demanding fast decisions and full-speed execution. If a guy's not locked in, he's falling behind. You can feel the competition rising in every position group. From the line to the backfield, reps are being earned, not handed. And that urgency is showing up in ways you can't measure in a stat sheet. It's energy, it's edge, it's hunger. And for Carolina, that might be the secret weapon. But no scheme works without the quarterback delivering under pressure. And while the offense has clearly changed, the real question is whether Bryce Young has too. Because he's not just running the system, he's redefining how it moves. The way he came back from being benched wasn't just a bounce back, it was a total transformation. And it's time to uncover what actually triggered that shift. There's no easy way to explain what happened with Bryce Young. One moment, he looked completely overwhelmed, missing reads, misfiring under pressure, and playing like a rookie who wasn't ready. Then suddenly, he came back looking like a different quarterback. Not just better, but confident, creative, and in total control. This wasn't just improvement. It was a transformation nobody saw coming. The same player who got benched after 2 ugly losses returned later in the year and started lighting up defenses with precision. So what changed? The shocking part is, it didn't come from a playbook or some viral pep talk. The shift started in the locker room. Players like J.C. Horn and Chuba Hubbard began to speak differently about Bryce. Not because of what he said, but how he carried himself. He wasn't trying to impress them anymore, he was just doing the job. Practice habits changed, his tempo changed. The body language said more than any stat line ever could. He wasn't hoping to lead, he was taking ownership. But this didn't just happen on its own. Bryce's resurgence started the moment someone else stepped in. A veteran who had seen it all. A player whose influence went far beyond throwing passes. Andy Dalton didn't just give Bryce a break. He gave him the blueprint. And what followed might be one of the most underrated development stories in the league. Let's unpack how that decision set everything in motion. When Dave Canales made the call to bench Bryce Young, most people thought it was the beginning of the end. Critics were already labeling him a bust. Fans were calling for a quarterback change. And in a league that rarely waits for development, it looked like Carolina had swung and missed on the #1 overall pick. But what nobody realized at the time was that stepping back might have been exactly what Bryce needed. Because that short stretch on the sideline wasn't about punishment, it was about preparation. Andy Dalton, a seasoned veteran with years of starting experience, stepped in not just to manage games, but to model how a professional quarterback operates. He showed Bryce how to lead from the front, how to own the huddle, and how to respond when things break down. Dalton had been through the highs and lows, and Bryce quietly absorbed it all. It wasn't about copying his style. It was about learning how to survive in this league, how to reset under pressure, and how to win back a locker room. That short exile changed everything. When Bryce returned, his footwork was tighter, his decisions came quicker, and his confidence looked unshakable. It wasn't just that he improved, it was that he finally looked like the leader Carolina drafted him to be. And once he got back on the field, the turnaround didn't take long to show. Because from that moment forward, something clicked, and it set off one of the most surprising stretches of quarterback play we saw all season. Let's dive into exactly how that comeback unfolded. Bryce Young didn't ease his way back into the spotlight. He kicked the door open. His return wasn't flashy at first, but it was calculated, steady, and sharp. Week by week, the doubts began to fade. The game in New Orleans felt like the turning point. He wasn't just managing the offense, he was dictating it. Then came the win in Munich against the Giants, where he handled pressure like a seasoned vet. The stats weren't explosive, but the control was obvious. And inside that locker room, a shift was happening. Guys weren't just following Bryce because he was the starter. They were following him because they finally believed he was the guy. The momentum didn't stop there. Against Kansas City and Philadelphia, two teams who were chasing the Lombardi Trophy, Bryce gave both defenses serious problems. He threw with timing, extended plays when needed, and showed off the composure that had made him a top pick in the first place. His chemistry with receivers improved, his pocket awareness sharpened. Most importantly, he started to play with freedom, not fear. That hesitation from earlier in the season? Gone. And by the time they reached Atlanta, Bryce had turned that final game into a statement. What nobody's saying loud enough is just how rare this kind of in-season growth actually is. Most young quarterbacks fold under that kind of early pressure. Bryce didn't just survive it, he flipped it into fuel. His 5-touchdown performance to close out the year wasn't a highlight. It was a warning. Something had changed, and the numbers behind it tell a story that's even more shocking than the eye test. Let's break those down and see where he really stands among the NFL's best. Most fans saw Bryce Young's bounce back, but few realized just how elite his numbers became. From Week 9 to the end of the season, his performance didn't just improve, it launched him into top-tier quarterback territory. According to Pro Football Focus, Bryce had the 5th best passing grade in the NFL during that stretch. Not 10th, not 12th, 5th. He outperformed names like Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes in specific metrics, and the gap between him and other young QBs widened quickly. This wasn't about flashes. It was about sustained, high-level execution. The deeper you look, the clearer it becomes. Bryce finished the year with 15 touchdown passes, just 6 interceptions, and over 2,100 yards in his final 10 games. His big-time throws ranked second only to Joe Burrow. His average depth of target sat at 9.4 yards, placing him among the most aggressive passers in the league. Even his turnover-worthy plays dropped to single digits. That's not just improvement, that's rare air for a second-year quarterback who was written off by Week 3. But the numbers don't just tell us how far Bryce has come, they raise the stakes for what comes next. Because now, the expectations are real. He's no longer flying under the radar. And if Carolina's going to make noise this season, he's going to have to carry that same fire from Week 9 through Week 18. So where does this leave the Panthers? With a young quarterback who's finally starting to look like a franchise cornerstone, a head coach who's shifting the entire culture, and a team that feels closer than it's been in years to turning the corner. But there's still risk. One step backward from Bryce, one more defensive collapse, and all of this momentum could vanish again. What do you think? Has Bryce earned your trust going into 2025? Should the Panthers go all in on him now, or do they still need more proof? And if you had to choose, would you keep a third quarterback or use that spot on a special teamer? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more Panthers content.